Okay, thank you, Jennifer. I'll take a motion at this point to close the close executive session and to reopen the public meeting. Trustee Golio, second Trustee Cassell. All in favor? Meeting will come to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance of a flag and a prayer by Trustee Flynn. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, for tonight's prayer, I'd like to pray for all the children at Dobbs Ferry who are winding down the school year. The kids today are under a lot of stress and pressure, so please grant them a sense of calm and tranquility over these last few weeks of the school year. And most important, please give us a nice sunny day on June 18th so we can have a beautiful waterfront graduation. Amen.
Thank you, Bill. And good evening, everybody. Welcome to Village Hall. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for Tuesday, May 24, 2016. We don't have any finance motions tonight. Just a quick outline here. We'll start the meeting. I'm going to give a quick update on the 75 Main Street application. We'll have some discussion on the board up here on that as well. Following that, we'll then move to courtesy of the floor. So if you have anything that you'd like to address with the board tonight, anything that's on the agenda or not on the agenda, that'll be the time to do it. When you're recognized, please come to the microphone here, state your name and address, and please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes if you can. We appreciate that, and then we'll get to our matters requiring action. Let me give a quick update on the 75 Main Street application. I'm going to read a quick statement here, and then we'll have some discussion on the board. As everyone is aware, the 75 Main Street redevelopment application has been before the Board of Trustees for a number of months. This includes a public workshop and numerous public hearings and presentations. We appreciate everyone's public comments at these meetings, as well as everyone's written comments. We do consider them, we read them, we review them, and we think about it all very carefully. I'm speaking for myself, and I believe for the majority of the board. Actually, I believe for the entire board. At the 75 Main Street, as proposed, is just too large. Specifically, the rear building in the MDR2 zone is simply too big for the neighborhood. And if it doesn't fit, we can't accept it. The rear building clearly does not fit into the neighborhood, period. Consequently, the village has informed the applicant that the project will not move forward as currently proposed. I want to say something about the waivers, regarding the waivers, which has been the subject of much debate and discussion. While the village does have a process under our code for waivers, that provision has actually been in the code for many, many decades. And this was cited by the planning board as part of their recommendation to this board. I publicly expressed concerns specifically about the height waivers at a previous public hearing, saying it was a very heavy lift for the Board of Trustees to consider, along with the size and bulk of the rear building. And I think I can say without a doubt that the majority of the board feel that the request for a 29+ foot height waiver is not appropriate. So, moving forward, the applicant, we understand, has communicated with village staff about a revision to the project, which we understand concerns reducing the size and mass and height of the rear building. Neither the BOT or the village have seen a revised plan yet. We understand there's one yet, but we haven't seen it. So we can't comment on it. However, once and if a new plan is submitted, this board will review it, the public hearing will be reopened, and the process will restart to take public comment in the same open and transparent manner as previously and as we've conducted all site plan reviews in the past. Again, I want to thank the board. On behalf of the board, I'm going to let everybody speak for themselves for your comments. We've gotten a lot of comments, and a lot of them were very, very productive. Some of them were a little rough. Some of them have been tough to take. There's been some stretches and what have you, but that's all sort of part of the process. But we really do appreciate all the comments, and you've been part of the process. And this is how the process sometimes works. It's not always pretty, and sometimes it's noisy, but it's how the process works, and it's how we try as a community to get to a better place, and in this case, a better project that fits the community better and fits the neighborhood better. Now, that's my statement, and I've said some things I think on behalf of the entire board, because I'm pretty certain that's where we stand as a board, but I'll open it up to any trustee that would like to say anything else, and I'll turn to Deputy Mayor Golio to start that.
Great, thank you. First, I'd like to thank, the applicant, number one, for having an interest in our village. We have an old building that is in need of work and some restoration. With that being said, I think the mayor just outlined, at least my concerns also on the size and mass in a neighborhood. And unfortunately, this is a very unique piece of property in the village, probably the only piece like it, that is zoned in the way that it's zoned is one lot, which presented this problem in the first place. Obviously, we know parking is an issue in our town, and that needs to be taken into consideration also. So when I put all these things together and looking at the waivers that are being asked to be changed on our part, I find it a little tough, given the location and what it would do to really more of a residential area, particularly with the church right next to it. So that really weighed on me. But, I do like conceptually, what we're trying to accomplish here also. The idea of feet on the street in our village, being able to walk to mass transportation, to be able to support our local businesses, I think also is very important. So there is a balance, and it's really our job to find that balance, and that's what we will work to do as this process continues, and look forward to seeing the next rendition and what the applicant would like to do.
Trustee Cassell?
First of all, again, I want to thank everyone for their input. I want to reiterate something that we've discussed in the past and that people should know. As trustees of this village, our responsibility is to be fair and objective and not to prejudge any development until we have all the information. I know this has been a very emotional for a lot of the people here in the village. I've seen the emails and the tone of some of the emails. We really can't, as I said, prejudge or put out exactly whether we're for or against something until we have all the information, until it does come down for a vote. My feeling, as the mayor had said, I would be against this because of the waivers, the height, the massing. This particular piece of property, I checked this out, in the old code was zoned as industrial with the 50-foot height maximum. It was specifically rezoned in the new code to MDR2. There was obviously a reason for that, and the reason, I believe, was because they felt that the property on Palisade Street needed to be kept in line with the neighborhood. And I think that that's what has to happen. We appreciate people coming and wanting to build in this village, but if we're going to issue any waivers, it has to be really exceedingly special. And the height, too much, the bulk did not conform with the surrounding area. And I believe that if the developer does want to present something else, that we need to be open to it. And again, hear the feedback from them, hear the feedback from you, and come to the proper decision.
Vinny?
I agree with what the mayor had to say and what everybody else previously had to say, but I think the standard for waivers, in my mind, this project just did not meet the standards that the waivers would require. I don't see how the community would benefit, or the welfare or health of the community would benefit from granting these waivers. I believe that the project is, again, too tall and too out of character for the community. I just don't think it fits into Palisade with the church across the street and the parking. Although I do like the idea of having like Vic said, bodies down there, people living down there, so people can walk to the neighborhood restaurants and the train station. So I think it's a good idea to have life down there 24/7, but I just think this particular project did not meet the requirements necessary for the granting of waivers. So that's the reason why I would be against the project as it is presented.
Thanks, Vinnie. Trustee Corrales?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I also want to thank the applicant for having come before us and presented their application. I think the things that I liked about the project are the historic restoration of the Oceana building. I think that's a building that's very important to our village and to our downtown. And but we have to think long-term about what's being done in the back part of that lot, because whatever we put there, we live with it forever. And what was proposed was something that was so out of scale in terms of what the lot is zoned for and what is in the surrounding neighborhood, that I don't see any reason why we should disrespect the code and the way it's zoned and use this waiver power. Now, I also was disappointed that there weren't more arguments made, and I think because there couldn't be, that justify use of the waivers. I don't think the applicant carried their burden to justify use of waivers here. The height obviously was, I think, the lightning rod for the community, but my own personal view is that just looking at this strictly in terms of whether the waiver factors in the code were met, I couldn't find any reason why a height waiver of as many feet as was requested would be in the best interest of the health, safety, or general welfare of the community. So for those reasons, I would have voted against it were we formally voting tonight. I understand that there's been a new proposal submitted. I look forward to seeing that. I do wish that we were voting formally tonight, because I think on the record it would be nice to have for everyone here the benefit of that. But I also agree that we need to be practical, because we don't want to see something sitting unused either for a very long time. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else is proposed, and we'll continue this discussion.
Thank you, Lisa. Trustee Flynn?
Great. Good. No, I want to thank everyone, for who came out for the process too, for the owner for making the investment in the village, for all the people that came out for the project and against the project, right? It was a good community discussion. Of the 7 waivers, 6 were pre-existing conditions, which those, I think, me personally, I could get my arms around. The 7th one, unfortunately, was a little too big. The good news is it sounds like the owner heard it loud and clear and knows what the issue is. And what I suspect and what my hope is that we now have a new project that gets submitted that is within the height requirements. What I heard loud and clear from people is that everybody wants something there, right? Nobody wants another Rudy's Beau Rivage where you have a beautiful building that sits vacant and abandoned and unfortunately is lost because it's not being used. So it is an important building. Again, I think, if we could get it and right-size it from what I heard, and I'll tell you my opinion honestly, is, I think that's what the community wants. I think for me, just bringing down the back, that seemed to be the overwhelming issue. So I'm hoping that the new plans come back that comply with the height waivers, and we'll see what you have to offer. And like the mayor said, this has been a 100% open process with the community involved. I know, right, some people think it otherwise, but it's been 100% transparent. I personally take pride in that, in the way we conduct business up here, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Flynn. Trustee Taylor?
Thanks very much. I, as many of you know, was not going to be voting tonight, having come into this halfway through the process, but I did want to make a comment. Had I been voting tonight on this, I would have voted no. My initial impression, and I've been a fan of redevelopment of the downtown and of creating the kind of vibrancy that helps keep this village a village and a community, but it also has to preserve the character of the village. And upon additional study, and as I learned more about the project, and also as I heard from the audience and from here on the dais, from so many community members, often with very different interests and point of view, but all of whom, or many of whom were negative on this project, it became clear to me that this project is bigger than it should be to fit in properly and to maintain the character of our village. And as a result, I would have voted no. I am pleased that the developer has agreed to submit a proposal that would be a smaller proposal, and I look forward to continuing with a transparent process to create the kind of redevelopment that will suit the village and be appropriate.
Okay, great. Thanks for everybody's comments. So I think there you've got it loud and clear, and you've gotten everybody speaking on the record how we feel about this project and that it was not going to get approved, and that is unanimous, and the reasons why. I think everybody was pretty specific. As far as the process going forward, we don't know what the new project is going to look like. Obviously, it needs to have a comprehensive review. It may need to go somewhere else, such as the Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll discuss that, and we'll do that in an open forum, obviously, when and if we get the new proposal. Make no doubt, this board will be the board that will decide ultimately on the site plan. The planning board has already done its job. It recommended approval of a particular project to this board that we weren't comfortable with. And site plans do evolve over time, and this one is hopefully going to evolve to one that the community can be much more happy with, and we'll hopefully get there together. So we'll see. Nothing will be done tonight. Obviously, we will reopen the public hearing when it's the right time to do it. You will all be notified. You'll all be here again, and we'll all take a look together at what they've got and see what it is, and we'll go from there. So again, most importantly, thanks so much for all of your comments and being part of the process, and you'll continue to be part of the process. We all will. Okay, that's that. Moving on, courtesy of the floor. Anybody care to address the board on any particular issues or all? Yes, Don. Former mayor, Don Mayer, one of the greatest mayors of all time. Still holds the record, I think, for consecutive terms. There's a reason. Welcome, Don.
I'm glad you didn't say old mayor, you said
Former. The first time you were here, my very first meeting, I think it was, I said, we had some old mayors in the, now it's former.
First of all, I watch the meetings on TV, I try to keep up with the issues, but obviously I'm not deeply involved with all what's going on with all the issues. But I wanted to come down tonight to say a couple of things. First, I wanted to congratulate and welcome Charlene and Larry to the board. I really think it's wonderful that you want to serve. And Larry, specifically for you, being a trustee and eventually the mayor, if that happens someday.
Wow.
It's the second meeting.
It's a tremendous honor to be on the board, and I know you enjoy it. Even though there's a lot of time, there's controversy, that's just part of the deal. And I was thinking about that. You know, most of the decisions you make, like looking at the agenda tonight, ministerial, sometimes mundane issues, but there are big issues that come up. And big issues that do come up can affect the village forever. Sometimes decisions, I can think of probably 10 or 12 that have been made over the last 20 years that have had significant impact on the village and will impact the village 100 years or more, who knows. So I know that you take this very seriously, just the way you're conducting yourself tonight. I think it's fantastic. But I just wanted to comment that I think the bottom line is to what is best for the community. And sometimes it's not that clear. I've been through issues in the past where I had to make a decision, and I thought what I was making was the best for the community, and others did not agree. But as long as you really feel strongly about what you're voting on, I think that's the most important. And I just want to bring up one issue that is an example of action by a board that had serious and long-term impact on this village. In the 60s, now, I wasn't on the board, I was still in high school, but this particular issue I've talked to, and I've actually done some research. Con Ed came in front of the village board and requested permission to bury the utility lines on Main and Cedar. They came to the village, wanted to do it. And the merchants were up in arms. They felt that would be a serious inconvenience and they would lose money because it would take a long time. Petitioned the board, and the board denied permission to go ahead. Now look at today, what we would do to have the utility company come in here and do that. So this is an example that, and I know you take the job seriously, but I'm just thinking about the decisions that you make really can impact this village for a heck of a long time. One other point I'd like to make is, as I said, I'm not up on all the issues, but I just, to Ashford, I know it's on the agenda. I don't even pretend to know all the issues, but I am asking as a resident, and I know others feel the same way, please, let's get this thing done. And I'm sure there's legal issues, I'm sure a lot of issues, but let's not look at that for another 2 years. Let's do your best, even if you have to compromise. I don't know what you have to do, but let's get that done. It's almost an embarrassment at this point. It's been so long. So that's my little point for tonight. I just thank you for listening to me and best wishes for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Yes, Ed. Anybody else care to address the board tonight? A couple more? Tomorrow?
Ed Hennessy from Bellwood Avenue. I just want to thank the board for taking into consideration all of the various points about this project at 75 Main Street. And I would hope the next one that comes before you goes through the same iteration and maybe it'll be better than the last one. Thank you.
Hopefully. Thank you, Ed. Yes, Bruce.
Bruce Richards, 153 Main. I'd just like to agree with that, but also like to slow down river towns and the parking and everything's getting better. I mean, it's incremental, but.
Sorry, what'd you say? Everything is what? Everything is getting better, I thought you said.
On the corner of Cedar and Main, it's looking better. I have a very microscopic view.
Oh, come on, I knew what you meant.
Thank you, but the slowdown is helping. It really, because,
Great.
anyway, it's working. Thanks.
Thanks, Bruce.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else care to address the board? Yes, Maura.
Good evening, Maura Dorossi, 138 Palisade Street. I just personally want to thank you for the decision that you made today. I wanted to also congratulate the developer because I think that they put so much effort into listening to all of the boards and to listening to all of the residents, and I want to let them know that their effort never went unnoticed. So I wanted to thank them, but unfortunately they left. I do also look forward to seeing the new project, and hopefully it will be something that we all will agree that it will be for the well-being of the community. Thank you.
Great. Yes, Vicki.
First of all, I'd like to thank the board, Vicki Jones, 55 Brandy Avenue, Dobbs Ferry, New York. There are two things I would like the board to understand. One of the problems that happened with Rudy's and one of the current problems that are facing us with the Oceana building is that our village's blight laws are ineffective. If anybody on the board would be happy to look at our blight laws or find some sample blight laws and bring our blight laws up into code, that would stop buildings from Rudy's to be allowed to deteriorate. Buildings like Scott Chevrolet and Oceana, and other even private homes that are having a hard time keeping up with the neighborhood. Maybe there's a special task force that needs to happen in the community, but we have to readdress our bylaws because we cannot afford to let these major properties in our community fall to such disarray that we'll do almost anything to get them fixed. And by relooking and revisiting bylaws in other communities, it would help you solve the problems at hand. Number two, I would like the board, somebody on the board to please have the courage opportunity of declaring a moratorium on building in the downtown district area. And the reason that I do this is by looking at the projects that have recently been approved, and we've been told they're within code or slight variances. It's extremely, I was happy just kayaking and not coming to these board meetings, but when I started to see instead of 3 stories being enough on the corner of 2 Ashford Avenue, that they had to maximize it to be 4 stories, that, and then even 5.5 be higher than what it was allowed to be. I mean, these, there has to be a balance to fit our community. And if we're being told that this is acceptable heights, I find it scary. And I come up the train to turn onto Chestnut because I can't go up Walnut anymore. And every day I go past 66, 68, and I'm like, my God, look at that. The first story on that building is equal to the 2 stories on the building next to it. Its first story is the height of the 2 stories next to it, and it's going to have 3 more floors on top of that. Now, if this is within this new code, you guys really need to step back and say, wait a second, if this is code, this is unacceptable. We cannot have this mass and density down there. I mean, to find out that there's 0 setbacks to the aqueduct is only allowing the developer to maximize their potential reinvestment. And we know that many of those homes in that area, in that property, have been owned by families of this community for years and years and years. And they bought it as an investment for themselves, just like my home's an investment. Yay, thank God. I got it like in '68 for $72,000. Don't you wish you could have bought 12 of them? But the bottom line is this: no matter who owns the property, we want to be able to maintain our investment and maintain the charm of our community. But that building is actually going to make our library look small, and I can't believe it. And 2 Ashford Avenue had to be taller than the Catholic Church across the street. I wouldn't have believed it possible. There's something seriously wrong with this recode. I think you get the point, that there's something wrong with the code. And you've got to do something to change the law, because what this change that they did is not to our benefit. It's to maximize the developer. Please.
Thanks, Vic. Yeah, anybody else care to address the board? And then Father Tim, yes.
Father Tim Scannell, Sacred Heart, and Lady Pompeii, 18 Belwood Avenue. I'd just like to thank the board for considering our concerns at these 2 churches here. One of the things I hear all the time is that people complain and don't really use the process. And I've been encouraging people of the 2 churches, the 1 parish, to get involved, to make their views known to the board. And, and I say, it's the same thing we went through last year with the diocese. It was a done deal. Tell people how much it means to you, and come forward. And I just want to thank the board for allowing that process to happen and to allow our voice to be heard. And I look forward to a new proposal. I think nobody wants to see unused buildings, but we'd like to see it done right. And thank you very much for hearing us, and I'm sure people in the community are very, very happy, and I think their faith in the process is restored. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Tim. Nancy.
Nancy Delmar, Taglano, England Grandview, down the street from me. I wanted to also thank you for all your consideration and time you put into the process. And I would hope that we could all kind of step back, take a deep breath, and maybe look, forward thinking where the village is going to go in years to come. Because like Donnie had said, there's been a few decisions that have really too many, but, you know, it's contentious, you know, adversarial, doesn't get any of us anywhere, really. And I would also like to echo what Vicki said about maybe considering a moratorium short term. I think we had one when I was on the board for a while. You know, and just step back and take a look at the big picture and where we're going as a community and how much the village can absorb and take. Thanks.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for your comments. To Donnie, I want to say thank you for your comments, Donnie, just in terms of your experience and how a community should, you know, deal with issues. And I know that you were involved in some very big decisions, and some decisions actually that people back then, they were pretty emotional. And, you know, people thought some decisions were going to be like the end of the world, and they turned out to be great decisions, right? It's hard to forecast the future too, right? It's always the worst thing's going to happen with things, and usually those things never happen. But yeah, it's good to work through that as a community, and thanks for your words of wisdom on that. Vicki, you know, I formed a committee, an ad hoc committee that reviewed the code about a year ago. David Koenigsberg chaired that committee. Their recommendations, they worked, that group, which was the head of all the review boards, ZBA, AHRB, planning, building department, some other people were involved, worked for a couple of months and sent it to the planning board. They've looked at it, and part of the things that they are looking at does have to do with height. Remember, what's in the code now is in the code. We didn't just invent it. It was worked up over, as you know, a course of 12, 14 years, a land use committee. Some of you in this room were on that committee, wrote the code, and that's what was adopted in 2011, 2010, 2011. Sure, you can relook at it. I don't think a moratorium makes any sense. That's my personal opinion. I think you can work through some of these issues. What is your favorite building in Dobbs Ferry? The real tall one, right at the corner there, that's 7 stories high. You know, there is balance, and, you know, height for some people is a problem, but for others it's not. So the whole idea was the streetscape, you know, look in the downtown business area, kind of the look you get in Scarsdale and Tuckahoe and Bronxville, and maybe that's not completely right for Dobbs Ferry. It's probably not, but it's just that sort of concept. But you can certainly relook at that. But that's partly what's being looked at right now, and we will be bringing, I think, those recommendations. We have to look at them first, but over the next couple of weeks, and we'll go public with that, and we'll release them, and so everybody can see that. And I think some of those issues you'll see are in there. So.
Oh, good, and then will it be a public hearing, sir?
Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. And Nancy, thanks for your comments. There was something specific I wanted to say, but anyway.
Height of the roof,
Huh?
height, 2 Ashford, flat enough, 5.5 feet.
Oh, no, I don't know. Anyway, thanks for your comments, everybody.
Con Ed, I just wanted to
yeah.
make one comment in response to, Vicki, you mentioned the blight laws, and, you know, when we were working on the Historic District Task Force, we've been looking at least for historic properties, you know, they're having code changes that would prevent historic properties from degrading from neglect, and in doing that, I did get a chance to look at what our code has in it, and I would agree that that's an area where I think we could make a lot of improvement. So I would be in favor of taking a look at that portion of our code, as well as looking at the setbacks against the aqueduct as well. So, but I do think that it'll be good to take a look at the proposals from the planning board, and we can start there and look at whether other code changes are needed.
Great, thanks. I know it was 2 Ashford, and it was what Donnie said too. Yeah, we're all disgusted by the way that looks. I mean, the history goes back to 1987 on that building, and a lot of people have worked really hard to make sure nothing happens there, and that's part of the problem. You know, it was an empty SOS gas station for many, many years, and that seemed fine for everybody. Now, this is not acceptable either. We were talking about this at executive session. There's nothing more important right now. We all understand that there are some issues along the way that should have been done better. Nothing that this board was involved with, but administrative type things. That's all said and done, but right now that building needs to be finished and done, and that's what we're working on doing, because it's not doing anybody's good. He said, she said, pointing. There's no point in that anymore. The point is to get that done, And once it's done, I think it'll look, well, certainly look a lot better than it does now. But the height is what it is. That's what was approved by the ARB and the planning board, and the Board of Trustees approved it as well. But I just wanted to mention that that is a very big priority for the village right now, so. I think it's on its way to the ZBA?
It is.
Yeah. They're going to the ZBA, so I think they were scheduled for a June
8th or 9th,
June 8th or
whatever
9th
that
meeting.
is. June 8th.
Hopefully, everybody will be reasonable and they can work it out. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We really appreciate it. Moving on to matters requiring action. Action item number 1 is to accept the treasurer's financial report for January of 2016 and February of 2016 as submitted by the village treasurer. Jeff, you presented, I know that we weren't quite ready, I think, on the last meeting for the January report.
Right.
So we've got both January and February here. I don't know if you, obviously, these are very thick reports, very extensive, sort of we can go through line by line, what's coming in and what's going out, basically, right? Are there any comments you'd like to make or update us through 2 months here that we should know about, or any highlights or features?
You know, it's just business as usual. I don't think there's anything that jumps out at me at this point. Just if there was any questions that anybody on board had.
So no surprises, no surprises, that's good. Any questions from the trustees at all for Jeff at this point on the report? Okay, great, well, it's great we're getting these on a monthly basis, and Charlene, anything from your perspective that you need to comment on right now? All looks good?
All is good.
Okay, great. Action item number 2 is to consider a motion to accept audits number 1 and 2. Number 2 for May 2016 as presented by the village treasurer. This is a procedure that is done each month where Jeff, the village treasurer, sits down with 1 or 2 designated trustees, and they basically just go through the expenditures that the village has made, in general, you know, the bigger lines, over the course of the month, so that the board is actually getting a look at this too monthly as we go on. So you presented us with both January and February audits. Is that, no, I'm sorry.
Audits 1 and 2 for May of 2016.
So, right, okay, for May. So these are just for the calendar period of May.
Correct.
And again, anything that you need to, any comments or anything we need to know about?
Trustees Flynn and Russillo both reviewed them. Is there any major concerns or questions?
My concern was why we're spending so much money on Met tickets as opposed to the Yankee tickets. I'm told that's for the camp, so I'm fine with it.
This year, you're probably better off, actually.
Having been the liaison to the rec committee, Matt, I knew exactly what they were for, so I didn't question it, but Flynn was keeping us honest on that one, so.
Okay, great. Do I need to take a motion here?
Yeah.
Yes, I need to take a motion to accept the audit 1 and audit 2 for May 2016 as presented by the village treasurer. Is there a motion? Trustee Cassell, second trustee Russillo, discussion, all in favor? That passes with 7 ayes, thank you. Action item number 3, consider a motion to approve budget changes for the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department as requested by Assistant Chief Chris DeKnight. I don't know much about this.
Is this an even swap?
Yeah, this is just moving budget around. They had a couple of repairs at Ogden, a couple of equipment purchases they wanted to make at year end, and to eliminate some overspent line items. But it is just moving budget within the fire budget, fire department's
It's
budget.
not costing any more money.
Sorry?
It's not costing any more.
So there's no additional money or expenditures, you're just getting things in the right lines, or, okay. All right, any other questions for Jeff on that item? Then I'll take a motion to approve the budget changes for the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department as outlined by the village treasurer. Is there a motion? Trustee Taylor, second trustee Flynn, discussion, all in favor? Passes with 7 ayes. Action item number 4, to consider a motion to renew the village's insurance policy for accident and sickness insurance for the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Department. Do we have any background on this?
The background on is this is for volunteer firemen, obviously. It's accident and sickness. It's a limited policy. It has been traditional somewhere before 2000 that we provided. Unfortunately, it would have been passed with the other insurance, but we learned of it very late in the game. Jeff looked at it, we had the money to pay for it, we paid for it the year before. I met with Jeff, obviously, and the same committee that we had decided insurances. We talked to Spain. Spain suggested that this was the best company that we could use. Therefore, and Bob McLaughlin was on board for it, therefore that's what we're recommending. Next year, I think we will be a little more informed of it, and timing would be better. We also have to change the broker's authorization. As you remember, the insurance was with another company sometime before, but it is advisable, and everybody agrees that it's advisable to have the same broker, and so we have the authorization to change brokers. They are included in this request.
Okay. So you're recommending that we take this action? You don't see any issues here? Jeff's looked at it, you've looked it over, Darius, you've looked at any of the legal aspects?
Yes.
We've had the budget committee
And
has
in
looked
fact,
at this.
I recommend it strongly. It's something that the volunteer firemen really deserve.
Yep. Okay, so any questions or concerns from the trustees? If not, we can move this forward. Then I'll take a motion to renew the village's insurance policy for accident and sickness insurance for the Dobbs Ferry Volunteer Fire Departments as outlined by the administrator of the village. Trustee Golio, second. Trustee Cassell. Discussions? All in favor? And that passes with 7 ayes. Thank you.
Mayor, just in the, Charlie, that amount is the $4,913, is that right?
That's correct.
Let's just have that amount as part of the record.
So we'll put that in the resolution as part of the record. Thanks, Liz, if you can insert that. Action item number 5 is to consider a motion to award the bid for the 2016 summer camp bus to the lowest bidder, in this case Royal Coach Lines, for an amount not to exceed $17,177. This is recommended by Recreation Superintendent Matarone. I think this is pretty straightforward. There was a bid package that went out. We reviewed it. So, okay. So if there's no issues or questions on that, I'll take a motion to award the bid for the summer camp bus to Royal Coach Lines, and this will be in an amount that will not exceed $17,177, as recommended by Recreation Superintendent Matarone. Is there a motion? Trustee Corrales, second. Trustee Rosillo, discussion? All in favor? Thanks, that passes with 7 ayes. Action item number 7 is to consider a motion to accept the annual MS4 stormwater.
No, 6.
Sorry,
Six.
skipping ahead.
Yep.
T-shirts, right?
T-shirts.
Consider a motion to award the bid for the 2016 summer T-shirt to the lowest bidder. In this case, Kenmar shirts, for an amount not to exceed $5,579.45, as recommended by Recreation Superintendent Matarone. So again, that's pretty straightforward. Is there a motion? I'm looking at Trustee Corrales again on that. It's a recreation. That's okay. Second, Trustee Flynn, discussion? All in favor? Okay, great. That passes with 7 ayes. We're on a roll here. All right, now action item number 7. Consider a motion to accept the annual MS4 storm water report as required by the New York State Department of Environmental Control. This is pretty thick. I know we do this each year.
Every year.
And I never read any of this.
Very few people do.
Somebody does, right?
The truth, yes, I did review it. And this is put together by Gary Gardner. And we're all in compliance, which is the most important aspect of it. It just has it has various categories that you fill in the box, and you fill in the same box, except you look to see if we are doing what we said we were going to do, and we do. And this is a report that goes to the DEC. And I will inquire as to whether they read it.
Well, yeah, we say that though, but stormwater management and what we do here is very, very important, and we do take it very seriously. And I know Gary and the DPW do a lot of work on this report. There's a lot that nobody ever sees or knows about in terms of the work they do, whether it's just simply cleaning out drains or putting in new lines or doing what they have to make sure that we're compliant, to try to cut down on some of the flooding issues that we have all around the village that are very, very difficult to take care of, and there's not always things that we can do. Sometimes we can do simple things, sometimes we can't do anything. But so it is a serious endeavor, and obviously with the river, the Hudson River and the Sawmill River, I mean, it's something we're all aware of.
Absolutely, Mayor, and I was being facetious only about the form itself, not about the work that Gary and his guys do, because they do an outstanding job.
Yep.
And Charlene, doesn't this, sorry, doesn't this also pertain, I remember going back probably about 5 or 6 years ago, all the new regulations coming into place and the onus on Dobbs Ferry as a village to keep up with making sure all our stormwater is being kept correct, and this is part of that, I guess.
It's part of the mandates.
And more to come, from what I understand.
Absolutely. They're mandates from the state, which we are obligated to follow, and that is why the compliance portion of it is very important.
But also, there was a budgeting issue associated with this because of the work that Gary's group would have to do on a yearly basis, based on the mandates handed down by the state. We're only going to increase, so I'm just sure we need to watch that a little bit also.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to point out that I did read it, just to make sure there wasn't something that needed to go to the CAB, but it, as you said, it's all procedural, set
Yes,
form kinds of
Yes, and
stuff,
I
yeah.
believe that the CAB really does look at these things and sees that Gary and his crew are doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Okay, excellent. So I think I need a motion here, right? And the motion is to accept the annual MS4 stormwater report as required by the New York State Department of Environmental Control. Is there a motion? Trustee Cassell, second. Trustee Dolio, discussion. All in favor? Great, that passes with 7 ayes. Action item number 8 is to consider a motion to ratify approval of an application for the use of Waterfront Park from the Dobbs Ferry School Foundation. This was this past weekend, May 20th, 2016, for the annual Dobbs Ferry School Foundation Gala. This is just a formality. So, is there a motion for the approval? Trustee Flynn, second. Trustee Russillo, discussion, all in favor? Great, that passes with 7 ayes. And lastly, action item number 9 is to consider a motion to approve a request from Anthony Guido to park a gaming truck at Waterfront Park on Sunday, June 26th for a children's party. How do we feel about that?
At one time, somebody had requested to have the
Yeah, I
gaming
remember.
truck
Yeah.
on a public street, and we voted it down because we didn't believe
Right.
that a kid's party should take place on village property, so I don't think this is a very good
I
idea.
think we were at the waterfront too. You said.
And this is at the waterfront, which
I
is,
thought it was at the waterfront, yeah, it was for a birthday party, it was a
Yeah.
game, it was exactly.
Well, I think what we were referring to was something that was gonna be put up
On the
near
street.
Hudson Social, and
and
there was
yeah,
an
there's
issue with
something there
that.
too, yeah.
Do we know where they wanted to locate this one, or what it was, what kind of gaming truck, or how big, or?
It's 55 feet in length and 9 feet wide. It's a dual pickup truck which pulls the 38-foot trailer
It was for,
at a waterfront park, I don't.
for 2 hours on June 26th.
I see Matt here, and I was just gonna ask if this went to the rec commission at all. I don't recall hearing whether this request for a gaming truck at the waterfront park was a request.
No, this went straight to Village Hall. When I do some helpful advice, if you don't mind, I know a few months ago, maybe even a year ago, a resident did ask for a very similar request at the waterfront park. As a matter of fact, my mom came in and spoke.
Yeah.
Did not go to the rec, that one either, but I do remember that the board decided against it. I think it was for safety reasons, or one of them for having kids running around the parking lot. I don't remember any other information, but I do remember that you guys did decline it, and I think safety reasons was the reason.
I have two thoughts about it. One is that, something like this, you clearly would have to want to get, I would think, the same indemnifications and protections for the village were children to be unsupervised and running and somehow cause a problem, and we look like we've approved it. And the second is, I haven't been part of all these meetings, but it would be probably a good idea to have some conversation about guidelines for this type of event, or sort of extra uses of the park for village residents want to do particular things, and have some policies in place perhaps about what is allowed and not, as opposed to dealing with it all ad hoc.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. I guess what I was wondering was whether they were also requesting to reserve part of the park as well, or is it just the truck?
It'd be nice if the applicant was actually here.
How many
No,
spaces?
it's
How many
just to park the
spots?
truck in the parking lot. The children attending the party would be driven down by their parents, whomever, dropped off at the truck. They will not be in the park, they will exclusively be inside of the truck.
Inside the truck?
Yes.
It's a gaming truck.
Gaming truck.
It's gonna take up a lot of room, but it's on the weekend.
Well, we don't want to be party poopers or spoilers here, but I think we have set precedent. We've had these proposals before, and we have not approved them for the reasons that we just discussed. The liability being one, and that's a really
The amount
important
of
one, right?
spaces also being taken out,
Yeah.
that
I don't
they
know.
could turn into a playground. I mean, not a playground, but it could turn into.
I mean,
Matt, does the Parks and Recreation Commission or department have any policy or guidelines about this at all?
It's in the
Yeah.
parking lot, it's different. No,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
Right, normally they come for approval to use the park, and that gets voted on, so
Right.
it's- yeah.
The parking lot's a whole.
So we probably should. write up some more policy.
I would
What do you think,
have
Charlie?
safety concerns.
Yeah.
It's, if the children are in the park, going right into this truck, children don't really just go right into the truck, they let out of the car, and you have those issues involved. You also have insurance issues, because there's gonna be a lot of kids in that truck. You're gonna have the fire department having to look at the areas so that you have the proper amounts of fire, fire access, and also the fire alarms, things to put out the fire. There are a number of reasons that this may not be the best, and also it is the waterfront. If it's on a weekend, there's a lot of people around also. They're taking up a lot of parking spaces, basically. And you have a lot of kids being driven into the park, let off, and so that just increases traffic.
Yeah, and these kids apparently are gonna be inside the truck, so what's the point of even going to the waterfront park anyway? They're gonna be
Well,
locked
nice
inside
after they
the
get
truck,
out.
doing
Well, they
laser
probably don't
tag or
have a
something.
place to
Why don't you
park
just
the truck.
go to, White Plains and do that? I don't know, I don't feel real comfortable with this. Does anybody else wanna really push this through and, but,
I think if there were an area that we had designated that we could cordon off, where we wouldn't be as worried about the traffic issues, then, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it. But since we don't have that, and as Larry suggested, I think it would be good to have more of a kind of a stance on what we could make available, so that maybe we could do something like this in the future, but it doesn't seem like we're ready to handle all the implications of this, so unfortunately, I don't think I would support it at this point.
I agree.
Those are good points.
okay. So do I even need to do a motion on this, Darius? I don't think so, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. All right, that brings us to the end. We'll get to some reports and announcements, but let me go down here. Trustee Flynn, anything from your end there?
No updates there.
You're good, okay. Trustee Taylor, anything to report?
No updates.
Okay.
I suppose the only thing would be the slow down river towns? Or-
Yeah, I had a little bit on that, but yeah.
You go
And then
ahead,
you
do
can,
that.
and
Go
then
ahead.
I'll bring you in. Trustee Corrales.
Yes, reporting from the Rec Commission, Rec Department. Registration for summer camp is ongoing at the Embassy Community Center until camp begins or sessions fill up, and that's for senior, junior, and teen camp. Pool registration is ongoing at the community center during normal business hours. And also, don't forget the ice cream social is on Friday, June 17th at the Embassy Community Center from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's only $3 per child. And the youth basketball clinic will be Monday, June 27th through Friday, July 1st at the Dobbs Ferry High School. That's for boys and girls entering grades 3 through 8 in the fall. That is a $95 fee. And then there's the Outdoor Summer Basketball League that runs July 5th through August 12th for boys and girls entering grades 3 to 6 in the fall. The villages of Ardsley and Irvington participate with us at Gould Park, and that's $100 per child. And finally, July 4th at the Waterfront Park. That's a Monday, I believe. It's Thomas Cullen Picnic in the Park. Festivities will begin at 3 p.m. and fireworks at dark.
Excellent, thanks. Thanks, Lisa. Trustee Russillo.
I just want to let everyone know that the Youth Service Council is sponsoring or helping out with the Dobbs Ferry High School Wellness Fair, which I believe is Thursday, starting at 1 o'clock, I think, right? 1 o'clock. So all the kids should take advantage of that, even though it's the day of formal. Don't skip school that day. Don't go home and get your hair done for the formals. Go to the wellness fair instead.
That's this Thursday. Right?
Yes, this Thursday. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Any trustee Galil? No? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Just a couple things here to wrap up. I want to just give a shout out to the Dobbs Ferry School Foundation. They held their annual gala Friday night at the waterfront. This was the first big event at the new waterfront since it's been reopened, and it was just unbelievable. If you drove down to the waterfront park on Friday, 6 o'clock-ish, you come around the bend, the bridge there, it was a beautiful night. And then you drive by Hudson Social, and every table was packed with families and couples and everybody having a great time. People walking all over the park, driving further out. Then you saw the big tent, with the Dobbs Ferry community there. It was just unbelievable. Half Moon Restaurant was packed. It was a beautiful night. There was so much activity. Everybody was laughing and smiling. Most everybody was. But there's always a few complaints, right? If you were there that night and you didn't think Dobbs Ferry wasn't moving in the right direction, you were out of your mind. And so I agree with Bruce Richards. Things are really moving in the right direction in Dobbs Ferry. But what a beautiful night, and what a great gala event they put on. There were so many people there. I want to thank Charlene. I know you worked with them there was some 12-hour stuff that had to get done. But thanks from the village's standpoint, and Gary Gardner, of course, and all the DPW guys. I got a police escort out of the parking lot that night. It was pretty cool. He was leaving anyways. I said, follow me. And so the police were great there. And Darius, I know you did some legal work at the very end that they needed to tighten up their paperwork. And I think they raised about $50,000 for the schools that night. So just tremendous community event. And Slow Down River Towns. You guys you all see the signs. I think you've seen the banners. There was a really great press conference that was held about a week and a half ago here in Dobbs Ferry in Village Hall to announce the rollout of the Slow Down River Towns campaign, which was really, obviously we had a tragic accident in Dobbs Ferry, but if you know, every single village has had an issue, a pretty serious accident involving cars and pedestrians over the last year. So, Irvington took the lead, obviously, on their own, and we stole a lot of stuff from them, obviously, in terms of the idea, and they really set the bar themselves. But I want to just thank our police chief, Betsy Gilardi, who reached out when Betsy and I were just talking about doing a Slow Down Irvington, and our board was talking about it, or Slow Down Dobbs Ferry. Betsy said, and we were just about ready to announce it at a board meeting. She says, you know what, why don't we reach out to all the other villages, and I'll call all the other chiefs, and we'll make this a broad initiative. She got everybody on board right away, and then I called all the mayors, and Irvington was a little bit, we got our own thing going, but man, that would really make much more sense to be all in it together. So it's a lot of signs now, it's banners, they're handing out palm cards, you're going to see more enforcement. But enforcement can't do everything. This is really about teaching and awareness, and Betsy and the police department and Justin Campy in particular, I think the youth services will be involved, are now reaching out with the schools. They're going to be running programs, and those will be announced. We're going to get Mercy College involved. So I think you'll see more and more on this, but really the whole idea here is to slow everybody down. And I know this is near and dear to everybody. We want to have a safe community. We don't want any more tragedies. And Donna, you've worked on a lot of these issues before, so I know that you were right there with this too. So.
Yeah, it was a great turnout. We had police chiefs and mayors from all the 7 villages, so it was really great. But I also want to point out, I believe the PTSA, Safe Routes to School Committee, is also working on pace cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they'll be
Somebody's
putting,
saying that.
especially at the Ferry Fest, I think they're gonna be doing a big push there. So that will, the pace car is, people sign pledges, the kids sign pledges, adults sign pledges saying that they will observe all the speed limits. You get a little stick of your car saying pace car, and the idea is that that car does the speed limit, and it sets the pace for the other cars behind them throughout the village. So they're working on that.
Yeah, great. I think there is a model of a pace car up in one of the schools,
I
right?
think Irvington has it, yeah.
Okay, great. All right, everybody, good meeting. The parade, yeah, Memorial Day Parade is on Monday. We'll be stepping off at 9 o'clock, Mohegan Park. 10 o'clock. We'll be stepping off at 10 o'clock, Mohegan Park, which is really where we do it. Everybody, please come out, line the streets. We have a band this year, right, Matt? We got a band for sure. So it should be great, and obviously it's a very meaningful moment, and it's a great thing for the village too. So we look forward to seeing everybody on Memorial Day, 10 o'clock, Mohegan Park. We'll go to the memorials at Little White Church Cemetery first stop, and then the high school, a little ceremony there, and then we'll walk down Main Street, Cedar Street. Are we going all the way to Memorial Park?
Yes.
Okay, all the way to Memorial Park. Not all the way down to the waterfront though this year?
No.
Okay, that might be next year. Okay. Great meeting again. There being no further business, meeting is adjourned.